Good afternoon, everyone. Today I have a special report. With me is Angelina Ireland. She is the current president of the Delta Hospice Society, and she's got a crazy, crazy story to tell. I couldn't actually believe it when I was first contacted and I went through what she said happened. My jaw was on the floor. What has happened has been a culmination of the government moving into force their way into a private society that has dedicated themselves to the dying, right? Dying with dignity, dying on their own terms, not medically assisted, but dying naturally. And the government has said, you can't do that. And when they said, yeah, we can, the government said, no, we're going to take your hospice and make sure that you can't do that. So unless you do this, we're going to take what you've built and offer this thing that we're telling you. So Angelina, thanks for joining me today. This is a
Hi,
crazy
Mark.
story. This is a crazy story. Can you kind of, okay, going back to February. No, first of all, you currently don't have custody, you don't have ownership of the Delta Hospice. Is that correct?
That's right. We built, 10 years ago or 11 years ago now, we fundraised $8.5 million, a capital project, to build a hospice, a palliative care facility for people in their last days of living. And so we went out and we made a deal with the government to lease some land that they owned. And upon that, a 35-year lease, and upon that land, we would build our buildings. We built a hospice and a supportive care center adjacent to it. And we did that with the money that we fundraised.
Okay.
And so we operated that hospice for a little over 10 years.
Right. And how long was the lease? 9 years?
The lease is for 35 years
Okay. So we got
from the
25.
Fraser Health Authority.
So we have 25 years left on the lease, and they show up and they say,
Right. So, this all started with back in 2016 when the federal government passed Bill C-14, which was the MAID, or Medical Assistance in Dying, amendment to the criminal code, which basically said that people can now have doctors or nurses help them kill themselves,
mm-hmm,
and it will not be a crime.
right,
It will not be murder. It
right,
will be non-culpable homicide. That's where it started. And
yeah,
so the Minister of Justice at the time, Jody Wilson-Raybould, and the Liberal government,
mm-hmm,
they passed this through Parliament. Well, very quickly after that, they also passed a bill about palliative care, which was a framework for palliative care, meaning that euthanasia is not included in palliative care. This is like two separate streams of health care.
mm-hmm,
So then they passed it back to the provinces and said to the province to implement this ability for people to be able to access medical assistance in dying
mm-hmm,
if they met certain criteria.
yeah,
So out here in British Columbia, uh, the health authorities, and we're part of the Fraser Health Authority because there's 5 of them,
mm-hmm,
they took it upon themselves to institute a policy whereby every health facility getting government money would have to allow medical assistance in dying.
right,
Now, as a hospice, as a palliative care, organization, we follow very strict palliative care principles.
right. So
That's
just
a 50-year medical discipline.
right. So can you just for people who may not know what palliative care is, it seems like a regular term, but for anybody who may not know what that is, can you just quickly explain what palliative care is?
Yes, this is for care with people who are tend to be facing their last days of living,
Right.
tend to have chronic illnesses,
Mm-hmm,
and what it is basically a 4-pronged approach to their care: physical, spiritual, emotional, psychological care
right,
for not only them but for their families,
right.
so that they're allowed to spend their last days in peace, with hope, to do whatever they need to do to into their last stages of life.
Right. So
This is
so
what, yeah,
so your hospice, the Delta Hospice, was delivering palliative care, not medical assistance in dying. They're very different according to you, and I think that there, as you said, there are different medical disciplines, right? Like one is you're sick and you want to carry on, you want to pass on now, and then the other one is you're dying and you want to go through that natural process and you need support. And I think that's fundamentally different.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you something. It's a 50-year medical discipline that states that euthanasia is not part of it. We do nothing to hasten death, period. Very simple concept, right? We just help and support those people living so that they may live well until their natural end.
Good. And so I want to say, just before we get into the rest of the story, this is important. With the government now running your hospice, because you refuse to, or you and the government disagree with medical assistance in dying because of that, you're moving on forward and you are starting a private hospice. Is that accurate? Is that pretty close to what's happening?
Well, that's right. I mean, what we said is, listen, we've already built a hospice. So, you know what? We'll build another one. And we won't trust the government and the bureaucrats this time. We won't trust their grandiose promises. What we'll do is we'll build it on our own. So our new vision is to build a euthanasia-free hospice open to anyone living anywhere, that we will be able to take care of these people without government help, without government money, no government programs, and certainly not on government land. And we'll be able to, produce programs that are actually authentic palliative care.
Very cool.
So that's what.
All right. So in February of 2020, let's say, you were informed by the government that you hadn't really done anything wrong, but they're ending your lease, terminating your lease, starting the process of removing the ownership of your hospice from you. Is that accurate?
Okay, well, what happened was we had been under quite a bit of pressure from the Fraser Health Authority to start offering medical assistance in dying. And we told them flat out, we will not do it. It is not part of our medical discipline. And I also want to make it very clear to people that we don't have a debate about MAID. Okay, this is not what this is about. What we're saying is that we don't provide that, but literally right next door to us is the Delta Hospital. And that's where you can have MAID.
Right.
It's about, you can see it from the window, right? So we're saying that's not what we do, but if people want to have that, we will certainly make arrangements for them to go there and have that. But that was never acceptable. See, they wanted MAID in every single bed in British Columbia that the government was putting any money into.
That seems odd. So what was their reason? Did they give you ever give you any reasoning about why that was unacceptable? Like you said, like you're not against medical assistance in dying. There's no, if somebody wants to pursue that, you don't try to convince them not to, right? Like there's nothing.
No.
It's up to that person. It's not up to you or your hospice, right?
Right.
So you're not counseling people away from medical assistance in dying. You just don't want to offer it in your facility. And for that crime, the government said, we're not dealing with you. You're done.
That's right.
We'll just replace. Right. We'll just take your buildings and replace you. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they can't even go next door. And
so, like, what was did they give a rationale? Like, did they say, listen, we're really concerned that people who would like medical assistance in dying can't get across the street? Like, was there any kind of rationale that didn't even make sense? Like that they told you that you were left with, or was it just basically listen to us?
It was, we heard, the Minister of Health himself, Adrian Dix, came out and said that, he's going to make sure that people can access their medical rights. So it became this, a lot of big flowery language around people's freedom and ability to exercise their medical rights. And so that meant that in that bed, in that facility, people will be allowed to have MAID, or we're going to take that facility from you.
Interesting.
So the fact that they'd have to just go next door wasn't allowed. It's the fact that we've never done that, nor did we ever agree to do that procedure, was not taken into consideration. It was just do what we say, do it now, or we're going to take everything from you.
Right. I think that it's interesting to note as well, when you go to, or like if you get a script, like a prescription for a specific thing, for a skin doctor or for a cancer specialist or something like that, not every bed in Ontario or Alberta or BC can deliver the same, cancer treatment or the same pregnancy. Can you get, is every bed in Ontario, are you able to give birth in every bed?
Well, this is exactly the irony of the situation, Mark, because in that hospital right next door to us, the Delta Hospital, well, you're not allowed to have your baby there. In fact, there's no maternity services in Delta whatsoever. So a person who's having a baby has to waddle themselves over to Vancouver or Richmond or some other health district that actually has maternity ward. But however, so this is how MAID has become like the king of all medical procedures in British Columbia. Every bed must provide euthanasia, even though every bed doesn't offer every other medical necessity in the province.
But every bed has to offer death.
Yes.
Isn't that strange? I mean, like, I guess it's easy to deliver in that, killing people is easy. But is that an acceptable trade-off that because you refuse to play by the rules that seem designed to remove anybody who disagrees from the board, right? Because you refuse to play by those rules, they've done exactly that. They've removed you from the board. Wild. Okay, and there's another aspect to this, right? So you were given your notification about a year long, like the lease is done, but midway through.
No. So what they did was they said, we're going to cancel your contract. You see, we are a private health provider with a government contract to provide 10 palliative care beds.
Right.
So what they said, if you're not going to provide MAID, we'll cancel your contract. You haven't actually done anything wrong. You haven't violated the contract. So we're going to give you the 1 year notice period. So that's what they did. So that's what the 1 year was for. And at the end of that 1 year, they then invoked a clause within the lease, which said, if you're not getting government funding, we can cancel your lease with 30 days notice, which is what they did. So the government contract came to an end, and we tried to negotiate with them nonstop about, we'll take less money. Listen, we won't take any money. Guess what? We'll be just a private provider of palliative care.
Right.
We'll fund this whole thing on our own. They said no. Everything was refused no. So when that contract came up, then they invoked the 30 days lease cancellation, and then they literally evicted us from our buildings, off of their land.
Wow. And then just set up their own new hospice run by them.
Yeah.
In your building. So
I mean, the place. What they did. I mean, the hospice was a jewel, truly a flagship that we built. That there was nothing to do. All they did, literally 2 weeks after kicking us out, they reopened the place, put some of their own staff in, and just carried on.
Yep.
So clearly, we feel this whole thing was orchestrated right from the beginning. That it's a beautiful asset that the government could now acquire, more beautiful than anything they've ever built. I'll tell you that much. That they now own. Kicked us out, appropriated our private assets worth $9 million at this time, and just carried on like nothing had happened.
Yeah. What about all the fixtures and everything all inside, everything?
Everything. So the two buildings, the supportive care center, we took all of our furniture out, and we stored it. And then the hospice itself, look, we're not going to pull the beds out.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're not going to injure the patients and things, but
no. So what they did though was they evicted all the patients. In January, they walked in without our even knowing it and handed out eviction notices to dying people in their beds, telling them they're going to have to leave because we're going to be evicted and we're no longer going to be running. The society's no longer going to be running the hospice. So literally, people had to leave. A few people passed away within that time period, but then 3 people had to be moved out. So the Fraser Health Authority moved them out to another hospice. So by the time our contract was officially over, the hospice was empty. So then what they did was in that 2 weeks, they put their own staff in and they reopened it. And then they started accepting bringing patients back in.
Wow. I mean, wow. It's when it happens to a private business or something like this, if something like this happened to it's like what is it? A hostile takeover, right? And if it happens to a private business, you think you can follow the bouncing ball, but this doesn't seem above board, right? It seems like the government followed the letter of the law, maybe, but it doesn't seem like a legitimate reason to do what they've done. And it seems like the motivation and the use of the building after that, like after their acquiring of that asset, seems like bad faith, right? It doesn't seem like they want to fix the issue with you. It seems like, hey, Yahtzee, we got this building. Let's start making some money, baby, right? Like it seems like a really kind of yuck feeling for me, anyway. If it was like Apple that did that to a little company, you'd be like, yuck, Apple, like not cool. But the government to do this is vicious. It's vicious.
Well,
Okay.
it is. And honestly, I think that they wanted to make an example of us.
Yeah.
That anybody who would be so defiant to government policy will be treated, badly. Like don't ever do this again. Look what we did to these people.
Okay.
Don't ever defy us again.
Yeah. And it's not like that's the only thing that you were dealing with for the last year. Halfway through, as you're kind of, trying to deal with the eviction notice and the 1 year termination notice and all of that, BC court, you were taken to court about trying to change your society to access a faith-based exemption for the maid to keep control of your hospice. And that didn't work out so well. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the government gave us basically one option, and that was to become a faith-based organization and then claim an exemption from having to provide euthanasia in our hospice. Yeah. So we wanted to go to our membership and we wanted to ask them if they would consider becoming a faith-based society, and then we'll claim the exemption. The end, right? Yeah. Well, it's not that easy, because what happened was we had a number of, I'll call them euthanasia activists or maid advocates who tried to literally storm the society and take it over.
Wow.
So they put on a huge campaign locally. They went literally door to door trying to sell our memberships to our society and garnering people who had a sort of a maid agenda that wanted to see maid in that hospice. And so we said, listen, we're not going to accept you. You can't be a member here. Listen, the purposes of this society for the past 30 years was palliative care, not euthanasia. Yeah. So no, you can't be a member. And if you want that kind of a society, then go make one, right? No one's stopping you. Yeah. Go make one, go make your own hospice, whatever. So it took us to court, literally took us to the BC Supreme Court and said that we cannot block anybody from becoming a member of our society, regardless of their intentions. Right. And we lost. We lost in the BC Supreme Court. The Justice Shelley Fitzpatrick said, no, you have to allow everybody to be a member of your society who has $10 and gives it to you. So we said, well, that just seems like that's kind of isn't that against like the Constitution? What about our freedom of association? And what about our freedom of conscience? No. So we appealed it to the highest court of British Columbia, BC Court of Appeals, and we lost. They did not even want to discuss any constitutional issues, any charter right issues. Nope, clearly you have to accept everybody. Your bylaws aren't strong enough. The end. So we said, listen, we're so passionate about this. We want to go to the Supreme Court of Canada. How is it that people can just, what does this mean for any private society in Canada? That somebody with an agenda can just take you over, acquire the control of all of your assets, change your purposes. This is Canada. Yeah. Anyways, we applied to take it to the Supreme Court of Canada, and the Supreme Court would not hear our case.
I'm not surprised.
The end.
Yeah.
We had to accept everybody that gave us $10. And so we started the beginning of this whole thing with like under 500 members. And today we have close to 9,000 members.
Wow. And the strategy here, just in case other people aren't sure what the plan is is to use all of those sold memberships to usurp the society itself. So not only has the government taken the physical assets of the society, they are using, somebody is using this other group of people to destroy the society itself by swamping them with members who would then vote these people out, Angelina out, right? And then they would say, yes, we love euthanasia. And then the government would have this big Get Delta Hospice Society comes on board with euthanasia made, medically assisted dying. And the funny part is, it's not really even about that. It's not about that. It's just about you offering medically assisted dying. You would refer them out. Listen, if you want to die today, no problem. We'll give you a referral. Go across the way, right? And if you wanted to have a baby, you got to go out of the Fraser, out of that area. But if you want to die, right here, right now. Very interesting. And it's probably a lot more expensive than... Anyway, regardless. Let's not go down that road. Is any of this... So the goal, hopefully we get some new members for the new... what's it called here? Let's give this the Hospice Sanctuary, a safe place for the dying. Become a member of the Delta Hospice Society. Support our plans to build a euthanasia-free hospice. So we can only move forward. These awful things have happened, right? These are terrible things, and I think that I said the other day, like, can you stop a freight train? Like, if you really want to stop a freight train, like if you're a man and you see a freight train and there's terrible things going to happen, if you stood in front of the freight train and like, I know this is happening, I'm going to stop. You can't, right? Or I'm a human, I'm a person. It's not going to happen. So like, I feel like you ran into a freight train. Like, are you going to stop that freight train? It's like, I don't see how, right? And there's a lot of that going on.
No, look, we could fight the government, right? We could fight them if we want to take them to court. But you know what? It's going to cost us $100,000, $150,000.
Yeah.
And if we were to win, they'd appeal it. Yep. They'd appeal it and appeal it.
Lawcraft.
And we'd go bankrupt just trying to fight a losing battle.
Right.
So what we said was, listen, it is what it is. Let us move forward. Let us create the kind of place that we believe people are craving in this moment. We get calls all the time from elderly people who are literally frightened about getting into a hospital, long-term care facility where they don't feel safe.
Yep.
So we need to fill that need.
Yeah.
We need to talk and stand for the people who do not want MAID. Taxpayers, with the democratic right just not to be in a facility where people next to them are being killed. They don't want that experience in their end of life.
Yep.
So we will be then the society who builds the hospice for the people who want true choice, that want a place to go that is safe in their last days. So this is now what we will spend the money, instead of fighting the government, let's spend the money on the people that want what we're offering. Yes.
Right. Yeah. One of the things we were talking about in the green room before we turned the camera on was that you have retained your ownership and control of the society, the Delta Hospice Society, and you're going to have an online general meeting. And in the online general meeting, you could potentially, you have 9,000 members Canada-wide. I don't know that you're worried that you're going to get swamped with members and outvoted during a general meeting. But what are the next steps? What's next? You're going to have your online general meeting and hopefully carry forward.
Well, I'll tell you, when people hear our story, they have been so supportive across Canada. They have rallied to become members of the society, to help protect what it is that we work hard for, and to support us. And so in the moment, we have more members who support us than do not.
Good.
However, we are constantly being stalked. We are constantly being harassed by, the death squad, as I call them, right? So we do need people. It's $10 for the year to become a member of the Delta Hospice Society. Come to we're going to be having a virtual SGM, special general meeting, to ask the membership if they will agree to a virtual annual general meeting.
Right.
And we got taken to court again about that.
Really?
The death squad wanted us to be able to only meet in person, because they want to just basically disenfranchise all the members across the country and not allow them a vote. To say that we support these people.
Yeah.
We think people are brave.
Right.
We want them to be able to go forward and create a place of sanctuary for those not interested in MAID.
Yeah.
So the judge, the same justice, she came back and said, Justice Fitzpatrick said, okay, you guys have a virtual special meeting. Ask your membership if they'll have a virtual annual meeting. So we consider this to be a great victory.
Good.
In a landscape where we have lost everything, we never won anything except, all we have is our moxie at this moment.
Yep.
To be allowed to have a virtual SGM and ask our membership if they'd have a virtual AGM.
Mm-hmm.
So we ask people to become a member of our society, $10. Mm-hmm. Come to a virtual meeting and vote yes, we want an annual GM that's virtual. Yep. And I think we'll be good to go, right? Yep. If we can win that, I think it's clear sailing for us in terms of being able to try to put our vision now into action.
Privately into action, yeah.
Into action.
No more government. Agreements. Yeah, I think that is a lofty goal. Is there any kind of, and I think a worthwhile goal for sure. And I hope that you're able to provide that. I think that I've heard stories and read stories on my shows talking about. It was a younger gentleman, I'm talking like 40, 45-year-old gentleman, who had a brain injury and was physically injured, but not terminal. And they kept trying to convince him to like do MAID. And he recorded the people who were trying to convince him to do MAID. And then I don't know if they were in trouble, but it was a news article. And the things that you're talking about, people's right to be able to have their last days in peace and to be able to have their family supported, and in a hospice, these are things that a lot of people see as Canadian values, as core Canadian values, and to see it attacked so blatantly by the government and at the same time by activists or whatever is sad. I hope you're able to put together this offering for people, because it's clear that there's a need for it. I hope you're able to put this together and not have interference from the government or other bad actors. So I really hope you guys can roll it out. I hope if you're watching, go and join and help them. Help them. They've already done it once. Let's do it again, right?
We do. We have all the plans. We have all the designs. We'll create another. We'll build another flagship, and this one will be for anybody that wants to come to our hospice across Canada, in the world. We're not going to be constricted by where people live in a certain health territory. Good. No. This one is truly going to be built by the people, for the people. Wonderful. And it's an interesting concept for Canadians, because we have become so reliant on whatever the government says to us. We do it. We don't think we can do anything on our own anymore. This will be an example that we hope to pave for the future, to show Canadians that you can be independent. Yeah. You can have values and beliefs apart from the mainstream, and you can be successful. This is an important example. This is an important job, not just for people who need a hospice, but for Canadians who just want to be able to believe in their nation again.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I agree. Just the basics of being of delivering humanity and compassion. Right. It used to be my mom worked in palliative care, right, when I was a kid, and she always talked about her oldies. And when they would pass on, she would always take pride in that their last days were as good as they could be, right? And how she helped with that. And not that that's missing, because I don't know that that's missing. I think people on the ground do their best. But institutionally, I think that that's missing. The care that we used to have as Canadians, I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, any final thoughts, last words, wrap it all up, anything last you want to say, and where can they find you? All the links will be in the description. All the links that we've talked about today will be in the description.
I ask people to visit deltahospice.org to buy a membership. It's $10. I guarantee it'll be the best $10 you spend in a long time. Come to a meeting, come to the the special general meeting, and vote yes. We want a virtual AGM.
Okay.
We are hopeful. We are, again, we have been brought, this last year and a half has been a struggle to just retain our courage against all levels of government who've come against us, against a community and an activist community that has come against us, that has personally doxed myself and other members of the board to try to make us surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And we have not. So for that alone, we ask you for your support to allow us to continue with our vision.
Very cool. Well, thank you for spending time with me today. I don't know if this is going to work right now. Aha, I did. Aha, cool. Thank you for spending the time with me today and letting us know about this important story. I think that, as I said, when we first got together and started talking about this, I think my audience is going to be interested in this. I'm shocked. I'm just shocked. I think there are things in life where you have to just let it go, right? Sometimes bad things happen to you and you have to just kind of, it can, if you really dwell on it, it's poison and it'll take you away from the good things you can do. And I think it's hard when bad things happen to people who are delivering something worthwhile and good fundamentally. It's hard to drop it and walk away, but I think it's probably best. I think it's probably the shortest route to restoring the good work that you were doing, and hopefully we'll do again soon. So thank you for spending the time with us. Thanks for letting us know what's going on, keeping us informed. And when is the meeting? Do you know? Do you have a date or not yet?
They need to have their memberships in by August 3rd.
Okay.
To be able to attend the special general meeting, which will be virtual.
Okay.
So it'll be hopefully very short meeting. You can either it'll either be by telephone or by internet,
okay.
And you have to vote. And so, yeah, get us your memberships by August 3rd. Online, it takes like 5 minutes.
Cool.
Boom, done, right?
Yeah.
And we'll keep you up to date about when the meeting will be called. I anticipate in September, mid to late September.
Okay.
And we'll take it from there. But I'll tell you something. We are re-energized. They may have won that round, but they haven't won the battle. No. And we're not going to surrender.
Good.
So join us. It's a story worth telling. Mm-hmm. Let people know, and we hope to be a little beacon out there of liberty and hope.
Yes. Well, it's not easy. So thank you for doing that. Okay, and I think that's good. So I think we'll end it there. Check out the sites in the description. Check out these places to donate and help out. And thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.